It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Limestone University head field hockey coach, Coach Kathleen Bulk. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Brandon. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college field hockey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think coaching is definitely a passion project. Anyone who's kind of in this field and this profession knows that it comes from a passion in your sport. So as soon as I picked up a field hockey stick in middle school, I knew that this was something I was going to kind of follow and do as long as I possibly could. And just very fortunate to have found myself in the coaching realm.
Of course, what was that like going to college and playing field hockey collegiately?
Yeah, it was a great experience. Obviously, many college athletes, I mean, they'll tell you that it's a dream, especially in the sport of field hockey, where there's not necessarily a professional, aspect to it after you graduate college. It's definitely kind of one of the last experiences that you get to have at a high level, unless, of course, you're going to play on a national team. But so it's awesome to be able to have experienced it at the collegiate level.
What was your experience like going to Messiah and getting to play collegiate field hockey for them?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, Messiah is a place that's founded on ethics and principles that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed getting to know my teammates and playing with different people all around the United States, even some people who were international. So it was an amazing experience for sure.
What was your experience like being a senior captain and getting to put on that jersey for the side?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it was the club field hockey team, and I was a captain junior and senior year. And it was awesome to have been named that by your teammates. Obviously, having that recognition of leadership and guiding principles is an amazing experience. And then obviously it helped prepare me for my future role as a coach.
Throughout your club experience, what were some of your biggest accomplishments?
So there were a few. I think probably over the 4 years that I was there, we went to the national championship 3 times. So 3 of the 4 years, and two of those years were when I was captain. So it's a great experience to be able to qualify for nationals and go on to that stage. And at the club level, you're playing kind of cross divisionally. So we played Duke, UNC, Virginia, Navy, and all of those are co-ed as well. So there were a bunch of international men, international women that we also got to play against. And so it was a really high level and very competitive. And so going to the national championship each and every year was a special experience for me.
What was that experience like getting to play those top teams like Duke, Navy, Army?
Yeah, it definitely opens your eyes as to, what international field hockey can be overseas. Like I said, playing against those international men who have kind of been playing since they were like, 3, 4, 5 years old. It definitely shows you a whole new level of what you can achieve in the sport and what people have put into their time. So definitely a great challenge.
Coming out of college, what was it like getting started in coaching in college field hockey?
Yeah, definitely. So it's a great experience, but definitely kind of a mind shift, if you will. Obviously stepping kind of out of that uniform and into a different uniform, being the person who's making the playing decisions instead of kind of just saying, yes, coach, and going out and doing a drill, putting together drills yourself. It definitely helps you mature a little bit. At the time, I graduated and was moving directly into an assistant coaching role. So I was only 3 months older than the oldest person on the team. So it's definitely a challenge to kind of step into that leadership role and command respect when basically you're working with someone who's, basically the same age as you. So definitely a big moment to be able to mature.
What was that experience like, obviously going to outsider schools that wasn't your alma mater, so you could have that gain respect even though you were still younger?
Yeah, absolutely. In some ways, it's kind of a good thing because they don't know you. So you just kind of get to come into that role and really build those relationships from the ground up rather than saying, I just played with you and you have known me for the past 4 years. But in some ways, that's another challenge in and of itself where you're stepping into that new role, you're meeting, these new players and having to build a relationship like from day one, and hopefully it grows into a positive experience for them and for you. But like I said, it works on your character, it works on your interpersonal skills, and then obviously developing a coaching philosophy. I mean, you really have to be able to, kind of put yourself out there and say, this is who I am as a person, and this is why you should trust me. And we can build things together. So definitely a great experience, but a challenging one.
What was that experience like going to Fast College to become the assistant coach?
Yeah, like I said, it was an intense experience for sure. Something I definitely learned a lot from. I would certainly say that it probably wasn't my best coaching year. As you kind of get into this realm, you learn that there's a lot of things that you don't know. So it certainly was an opportunity to kind of self-reflect and see, what can I continue to improve on? How can I increase my coaching knowledge? And then even like I said, how do you present yourself to athletes? How do you earn that respect? How do you build that relationship with them? But it was truly probably one of the most intense experiences and one of the most teachable moments for me in my coaching career.
What was that experience like getting to coach the goalies?
Yeah, working with goalies is awesome. It's definitely a whole new mindset as compared to field players. It's very specific in terms of skills. You kind of have to very much focus on the details and make sure that, we're making not just that first save, but setting ourselves up in a position to make that second or third save as well. Communicating with the defense. I personally played mostly defense when I was in my playing year. So it was nice to be able to kind of bring that defense mindset to the goalies and say, okay, this is what defense is seeing. This is what they're thinking. This is how you communicate with them. This is how you organize your defense. So encouraging the goalies to kind of take on that leadership role from the back as well. But definitely an awesome experience. I love goalies. Goalies great.
What was your transition like from going from Vast to Salvation?
To Salva Regina, yes. So that was a bit of a change, obviously going from New York to Rhode Island in and of itself was a bit of a move. But it was a great experience as well. I stepped on that team. The girls were immediately, very receptive to what I was trying to teach them. Once again, I worked primarily with the goalies and the defense. So being able to kind of pass on that knowledge of what I had gained was incredible. Working with Jen Foster, the head coach who's still there, she was an incredible mentor for me as well. And she really gave me kind of the space to find my own coaching philosophy, to take over and build drills and be very involved in the program. So I'm very, very fortunate to have had that experience too.
Of course, going to those two stops, what were some of the things that you learned to help you to then become a head coach?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, besides just the tactical and technical knowledge that you build as a coach and learning, what playing style you like, what you expect out of players, what skills you want to see, just learning how to build that interpersonal relationship with your athletes and say, how do I earn respect? What kind of standard do I want on my team? How do we want the team culture to look going forward? So I think in terms of both Vassar and Salve, that was really a development time of my own personal philosophy in coaching and saying, at the point when I'm ready and I want to take that next step into a head coaching role, what do I want my culture to look like? What do I want my team to look like? So yeah.
What was your experience like getting experience on the club level of coaching and on the college level before taking that next jump as a head coach?
Yeah, for sure. So I loved working at the club level as well as a coach and an assistant director with Summit Field Hockey. It's just a different field because they're obviously in the place, the high school players where they want to get to that next level and they want to be at the collegiate level. So they're really working hard, and there's a lot more molding that happens at that level where you're kind of teaching skills that they can build on. Whereas at the collegiate level, you're kind of saying, okay, I hope you have a certain basis of skills that we can kind of build off of and maybe do some more complicated concepts and situations. But the club level is awesome because they're just so excited to be there for the most part. You get to travel a lot, you go to different tournaments, you see different players from all over the place. And so I really enjoyed it. And in some ways I really missed that club experience.
What was your experience like at New England as the assistant coach?
Yeah, so that was once again another great experience as well. Working with the head coach, Carly Sweeney there. She's an amazing person, has a incredible field hockey background. So once again, getting to learn a little bit from her, and then also feel like she gave me the space to really contribute to the program and develop myself personally. And then also, that's also how I got involved in the club realm with Summit Field Hockey as well. So I mean, she's an incredible person. I learned a lot about team culture from her, team handbook, all of that stuff, incorporating, team concepts and pillars of standards on a team. And she's an incredible person to have learned from as well. And I feel fortunate that I got to come on sort of early and when she took over the program, so that I was able to kind of be a part of that build as they became, more successful and doing what they do today.
As a coach, what was that transition like from going from coaching up in the north to then coming to Limestone and getting to coach in the south?
Yeah, definitely a big change. I'm originally from New Hampshire, so I'm used to the cold. I'm used to kind of like the New England mindset. So coming down to the south where it's, like end of, or middle of March and it's 70 degrees outside, very, very different than the Northeast. And then also just getting the experience to work with a completely new set of players who have a completely different mindset from most of the players that you see in the Northeast, and see how they react to me, how I can continue to build the relationship with them. I really enjoyed it. I don't necessarily enjoy the cold, so coming down here where it's a little bit warmer has been a blessed experience. And then honestly, having a team that's been pretty receptive into what I've wanted to bring to the program and how we've wanted to change things and move forward. And so it's been a great experience. I'm really fortunate once again to have been given this opportunity and be able to work with not just players from the Northeast or in a concentrated area, really getting to work from players all over the United States, all the way from California, and then international players as well. We have girls from Argentina, from Chile, from the Netherlands, from the Czech Republic, from South Africa. So getting to see all of those different playing styles and combine together into something that's uniquely ours is a really special experience, and I've really enjoyed it over my first year.
What was that feeling like becoming a head coach for the first time in your coaching career?
Wow, yeah. So it's definitely an overwhelming experience in some ways, where you're like, wow, it's me, right? I'm making the decisions. I have to decide what the direction is. Everyone's looking at you in order to decide where we have to go, how we get there. But obviously it's an experience that I've been looking forward to. It's something that I've worked for a very long time for. And it was really special to be able to step into a program that has had such a history, especially in the South, one of the first field hockey teams to officially make it to the South, and be very successful at the level that they're at. It was very special, and I just felt very blessed to be able to kind of step into that role with them.
After getting announced to become the next head coach, what are some of the things that you've started to build?
Yeah, so the first thing I did, I'm big on team culture. I think that's kind of the basis of where we need to operate everything off of. We can work on skills, we can work on tactics, and all of that is obviously very important. But if we don't have the correct mindset to be able to accomplish what we want to accomplish together, then we're not going to get very far, no matter how good our skills are, how good our tactics are. So certainly one of the first things coming in was kind of taking a look through the team handbook, thinking about the culture of the team. Before they even met me, we had met on Zoom, but I assigned a book for all of them to read over the summer. I organized them into groups and said, okay, these are the chapters that you're responsible for. When we hit preseason in August, you're going to make a presentation for the entire team to see what we can build in to our team culture. What do you think is important? And really creating that collaborative experience, like right from the very beginning, making sure that we all understand how we need to approach situations and where we want to go in the future. So I would say that's probably the biggest kind of thing that I did at the very beginning.
How was your experience different as a head coach during COVID, where you had to have more Zoom calls with your players versus if you would have become a head coach earlier in your career, you would have had that relationship where you can meet your players face to face first?
Yeah, for sure. So certainly, I mean, COVID changed a lot of things for many coaches, both at the head and assistant levels. I think that I was fortunate to kind of have moved into head coaching at the time when we were mostly coming out of COVID, so that I could kind of develop that relationship with them. But certainly just before that and meeting with them on Zoom, and then when I was at NEC and meeting with them on Zoom, it's hard. It's hard to kind of develop that, that interpersonal connection in the same way that you can when you're in person with them. So I think that it's a challenge in a way, because you had to really think outside the box and say, okay, how do I keep them engaged? How do I get them to continue working in the same direction? How do I inspire them to go out and work on their skills by themselves? So certainly I think it was good in a way to help coaches think outside the box, but I'm very glad that we're back in person and we're able to just kind of do things the normal way, if you will.
What does a typical game day look like for Limestone University?
Yeah, so typical game day, obviously if they're going to class in the morning, that's kind of how they start their day. The captains will pick like what we're going to wear for the day, so that way we look like a team as we're walking around campus. If it's a home game, then obviously before the game, sometimes we'll have like a team meal, try to get together and just have a little bit of fun, start building that team bonding and camaraderie before we're even getting onto the field. And then beyond that, they'll go into the locker room. I kind of leave them to do their thing for the most part before the games. They get hyped with each other, or everyone has their different ways of processing things. So like most of the time they'll play music and they'll dance around and have a good time. But some people like to sit by themselves, kind of quiet, and just focus on what their task is for the day. So we really try to give the space for everyone to approach game day the way that they feel is the best way for them. And then obviously right before they would be coming to walk out, we kind of go in, we go over what our tactics are, what our goals are for the game. Usually we pick like 2 or 3 goals, don't want to get crazy with it. So we pick a couple things that we're going to work on for the game. I'll go out, give them a couple more minutes to kind of just get themselves ready, get everything on, and then they'll come walk out onto the field and we start our warm-up. So definitely working on our mindset for the game day that's later in the evening, and we start from the beginning of the day.
As a head coach, what was that feeling like the first time you got to step on the field and lead your team to a victory?
To be honest, when that first whistle went and we started the game, I was like, I can't even believe I'm here. I can't believe I did this. It's like I said, it's been a dream. It's been a goal since I kind of got out of collegiate playing myself. So having that feeling of like, no matter what happens in this game, no matter whether we win or lose, like you're here, you did it, you checked the box, you accomplished your goal. Now, obviously I want to win. I love winning. I think all coaches do. But it was just there was really a moment where I got to sit back and say like, wow, this is an incredible experience. And I'm really thankful to be here no matter what the eventual outcome of the game is. So.
What is it like, obviously, getting to coach in the Conference Carolina and coaching against teams like Mount Olive, Barton, and Belmont Abbey?
Yeah, so it's a very special experience. Obviously, it's a different kind of playing style from what I've experienced in the Northeast. So certain adjustments have to be made as well. I would say that it's a good challenge. I've really enjoyed all the games that we've had and have seen the growth that we've made, and then also been able to identify the different areas where we can continue to grow. And happy to be in the SAC conference where we do have good competition, with ranked opponents. So something to kind of keep us moving in the right direction and continue to challenge us as we move forward.
Of course, what is that challenge like preparing for game days at home when you have those teams like Mount Olive, Barton, and Belmont Abbey versus going over there to play those teams?
Yeah, certainly. So obviously there's the home field advantage. You love playing on your home turf where you can kind of just get fans to come in, your friends can come to the game, other coaches can come to the game. And then obviously getting on the bus and going away, it takes a little bit more effort to be able to focus in, to get our mindset right. But honestly, bus rides are fun too. I mean, we have snacks, we watch a movie, we bond, we joke, and all of that stuff too. So in some ways, at least in my mind, yeah, we love to play a home game and have that experience, but we also like to go and play away and maybe travel a bit, get out, see a little bit more than just our university too. So at least in game day prep, yeah, there's a little bit more time and effort into it, but we've tried to keep it pretty consistent so that way we're operating at a competitive and high level, no matter whether we're home or away.
As a head coach, what has it been like obviously playing in a conference that are teams in your surrounding area like South Carolina, North Carolina, and some in Georgia?
Yeah, so I'm really excited within the sport of field hockey. It's taken a lot of time to kind of grow into this area. So the fact that we have so many schools that are adding this field hockey program and we have more competition, we're not having to travel hours and hours on end to go play an opponent. I think it's really exciting to see the growth of field hockey in the Carolinas and kind of going into Georgia and Florida at this point as well. So very excited to be in an area where we're seeing so much growth.
What is that home game atmosphere like?
Ooh, home game atmosphere is awesome. You get the student athletes who from other teams who come to the game and they're cheering us on. And, field hockey is a very niche sport in the United States. So it's kind of funny just to see like some of the crowd when they don't understand the rules and they're yelling about it anyway. So having that home field kind of feel with the athletes and Limestone in of itself is a very supportive and productive environment in terms of athletics. We're a very, high competitive athletic school. So it's really enjoyable when you have other sports teams kind of come and cheer you on and recognize the good work that you're doing out there on the home field. So
What is that atmosphere like on away going to teams like Barton and Mount Olive, where you still have your fans, where they can still be able to travel easily?
yeah, it's awesome. Obviously, you feel even more special if people come to an away game because you're like, oh, you made the extra effort. You didn't just step out of your dorm and come to the field. You got in your car, you came to the field by yourself. So it's awesome to kind of, like I said, not have to travel so far for games as frequently as maybe we had to do in the past. So being kind of having that fan base who's willing to travel and come see games when you're playing is awesome.
What are some of your future plans for the program moving forward?
Yeah, so future plans. We are hosting the national championship for field hockey in 2024 at the Division II level. So very, very excited to be able to host that. And it kind of speaks to the fact that field hockey has continued to grow in this area and is becoming a very serious sport. So looking kind of forward in the next year or two, like as we go into fall, we are really, pedal to the metal in terms of trying to get to that conference, hopefully taking that trophy home again. And then obviously, as we look to 2024, really looking forward to maybe having a shot at that bid, because I think playing on our home field in the national championship tournament would be a quality experience. It would be awesome. So
What is that feeling going to feel like, obviously, if you do get that bid to have home field advantage throughout the tournament in 2024?
oh man, I probably couldn't even describe it if I wanted to. I think it would just be such a testament to the work of the team if we do get there. I'm trying to impart to them that, you can accomplish anything. You have the skill base, you have the tactics that you're able to accomplish this. It really is just going to come down to if you decide that you want it bad enough. So kind of being able to give them that opportunity to receive the bid and then see that hard work pay off would be a really, really special experience.
What does the recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play collegiate field hockey?
Yeah, so the recruitment process has changed a lot over the past couple of years. I think that's another byproduct of the COVID. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for field hockey, especially if you want to play somewhere, there's a program for you out there. Obviously I try to talk through with my recruits and say, okay, what do you want academically? What do you expect out of the campus life? What do you want out of your team culture? Because it's not just about necessarily the wins and losses. It's about the entire experience of your collegiate career. And then obviously at the end of the day, you are graduating with a degree. So making sure that you're at a place where you feel satisfied academically as well. I think that, like I said, there's a lot of opportunity. There's a ton of tournaments that you can go to. Even just sending a coach your highlight film and then starting a conversation. I mean, social media has kind of blossomed for the recruiting realm, and I love going on Instagram and kind of scrolling through recruitment videos and highlights and seeing who I can find on there as well. So I think the recruiting landscape is very, very friendly in terms of field hockey, because like I said, we are a smaller sport and programs continue to grow. So if you want to play at the collegiate realm, there is a place for you somewhere. And I would say just, don't hesitate to reach out to coaches, because we're always ready to continue expanding our program.
What are some of the things that you look at in those prospective student athletes now that you're a head coach that you didn't look at when you were assistant coaches?
Yeah, so I think as an assistant coach, one of your primary roles is to kind of identify the talent in some ways. So at least in my experience, what I would do is go to tournaments. I'd talk about, their skills, tactics on the field. And if I noticed anything in terms of like character or attitude, of course, I would make a note like that, like how they react to their teammates. How do they react when a goal gets scored on their team? How did they react to the referees? And then kind of putting that information together, maybe starting a conversation and then kind of helping segue it to the head coach who's making the final decision. Obviously, as a head coach, I'm the one making the final decision as in terms of recruits. So certainly trying to get to know them a little bit better and see their character. Like I said, asking them, like, what do you expect out of your team culture? What do you see your role as a first year student coming onto this team? What do you expect from your coaches? What kind of coaching style do you thrive under? Me personally, I ask a lot of questions at practice. So I want recruits who are going to be able to give me answers and have a conversation and be a little bit more collaborative. I'm not necessarily going to connect with players who kind of just shrug their shoulders at me and say, well, I don't know. I mean, I want someone who's kind of a little bit outgoing, who's able to have that conversation and really be willing to step into that leadership role kind of from the get-go. So I think just having a bit more in-depth conversation as a head coach, that way I can kind of get to know them on a more personal basis and see if they're going to fit into, the team direction that we're trying to go in.
What does a typical visit look like for those prospective student athletes coming to Limestone University?
Yeah, so in terms of like an unofficial visit where you're just coming for a few hours, usually we try to get you on an admissions tour where they can kind of take you all over main campus. You get to see the dorms, you get to see different classrooms and learn a little bit more about the school. After that, usually we'll pick you guys up and then come on over to the athletics campus, where I'll take you through the tour of like our locker room, show you our fields, show you our equipment room, see all of the trophies. So doing all of that kind of fun stuff. Usually I'll try to sit down with, players and or parents, whoever has accompanied them on the ride, and then have, probably an hour conversation and just say like I said, asking those questions about what they want, who they are as a person, and then also inviting them to ask questions and say like, hey, do you have anything about the school that you're wondering? Do you have anything about the team that you're wondering? Is there anything else any other information I can get you in order to make sure that you're making the right decision? And then after that, usually I try to arrange like a lunch with some of the girls on the team, so that way they can meet some of their prospective teammates and see if they click with them as well. And then I always check in with the girls on the team after a visit and say like, hey, how did it go? What did you think? And I trust them to be honest with me and say like, yep, I see them fitting here, or like, I don't know, it was a little off and whatever. So not that they get to make a final decision, but obviously if I'm trying to build a certain team culture and a certain mindset, the way you present yourself to girls who are already on the team certainly matters. But that's the general flow of a visit. Obviously, if we come for an official visit where you're staying overnight, I'll pair you with one of the girls on the team. You'll probably go to class with them. You'll have a meal again. It's awesome when we get someone on a game day, so that way they can kind of come and be a part of our pregame in the locker room, watch us play. So it can kind of vary depending on which visit we're doing, but in general, it's a very personal experience. I build an itinerary so that you know what you're doing through the day and just try to make it as optimal as possible.
As a head coach, what is it like getting to see those prospective student athletes when they finally do commit and get to put on that jersey of the limestone blue for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a great experience, because you're like, wow, I really see so much potential in those student athletes who are going to come in and put the jersey on for the first time. And especially when they step into their first collegiate game and get those first couple minutes, it's like such a special experience, because I know that, yes, they might be nervous, and yes, they might be feeling a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, like, that's an accomplishment in and of itself. So certainly feels special to be able to be a part of that and have given them that opportunity, and then see them grow and flourish as they move through their years here.
As a head coach, what is that feeling going to feel like in the future to see those players go from being a freshman, putting on that jersey for the first time, to putting it on for the last time as a senior?
Yeah, I mean, this is my first year here, but even with the senior class that just graduated, it was kind of a bittersweet experience where it's like, I feel like I just started to get to know these players and really connect with them, and then they're kind of graduating. But in terms of players who are moving through, and I've had them for a few years and have built those relationships, like I said, it's going to be bittersweet. I mean, getting to know them not just as athletes, not just as people that I put on the field, but to know them personally, to have seen their growth as an individual, both academically, athletically, and personally, is something that, you know, really resonates with me, and it has been a special experience as a coach. And it's the reason I got into coaching, is to develop those you know, personal experiences and those relationships. So it's bittersweet in the way that I'm so proud of them having moved through and accomplished what they wanted to accomplish with it. But then also a little bitter where it's like, oh, I'm not going to get to see your continued journey as you move forward with your life. But I'm sure that no matter where they go, they'll be very successful, and wishing them all the best as we get there.
Of course, looking forward in the future, what are some of your future plans 5 to 10 years down as a head coach?
Ooh, so yeah, I mean, I would just like to continue growing in, you know, coaching and sports psych and building that team culture. I think for me, like I said, that interpersonal experience and those experiences, building those relationships, is something that's really close to my heart. So just hoping to continue growing and seeing the development of teams, as we move forward. I've really enjoyed being in the South, so we'll see if I'm still here in 5 to 10 years. Maybe yes, maybe no. But just, I know that, you know, 5 to 10 years down the road, I'm still going to be working with athletes. I'm still going to be enjoying this experience, and hopefully encouraging them to grow into spectacular people as they move forward in life.
What advice would you give those high school athletes that are looking to go into college field hockey?
I would say advocate for yourself, for sure. So in the recruiting process, like I said, yes, there's a spot for everyone. You could definitely find a program to play in depending on your academic requirements and all of that. But also understand, like, you know, we get so many emails every single day. So something that can set yourself apart is being very responsive, being very driven, narrowing down what you want to like a top 5. So that way you're able to say to a coach, yes, this is definitely a program and I'm interested in. I want to come for a visit. I want to come for an official visit. And just understanding like what you want out of the experience. So really kind of taking that time to sit down and think, well, what are my main priorities, especially outside of field hockey, outside of sport? What do I want my eventual goals in life to be, and where's the best place for me to be able to accomplish those things? So being proactive, reaching out to coaches, have your highlight film all set, ready to go, you know, and making sure that if you reach out to a coach and you receive emails back, being responsive. And then, you know, if you've moved past a certain program, don't be afraid to just say, thank you so much for the experience, but I'm going in a different direction now. Trust me, we really appreciate that a lot more than being ghosted. So, you know, don't be afraid to advocate for yourself, say what you want, and ask the tough questions of coaches as well.
What advice would you give those college athletes that are entering their first year of collegiate field hockey?
Be a sponge. Be a sponge. Just soak everything up that you possibly can, even if it's something new, a new position that you've never played, if it's a new coaching tactic that you've never played in, or a position or a formation that you've never played in. If there's a skill that the coach wants you to try that you've never tried, just be a sponge, soak it all up, try it. You know, what's the worst that can happen? You know, really putting yourself out there and being open to new experiences. Just see, you know, where you fit in, try to find the best path forward for yourself, and be a sponge.
What advice would you give those collegiate athletes that are looking to play professionally, whether it's things like Athletes Unlimited or even US Route?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that, like I said, that coachability and being a sponge is going to speak volumes to the professional realm as well. I mean, if you're going into the professional world where you're being paid to play, you need to make sure that you're accomplishing and you're open to experiences and willing to be what that program needs at the time. Obviously staying fit, making sure you have the skills and game understanding that's necessary for that level, and just trying to be open to trying different things as you move through any sport. From when you're a little kid all the way through the professional realm, things will change. Different coaches want different things, different tactics, different formations, different anything. So if you're a player that can really just adapt and change and keep your mind open, no matter what the situation is, you're going to be a very desirable athlete.
What advice would you give those college athletes that are looking to get into college coaching right after playing?
I would say be prepared to make the switch, because it's a lot tougher than you think it's going to be. You think as a player, oh, wow, I've got it. I understand the sport. I know how to coach this. And the reality is you're going to learn very quickly how much you don't know. So always be a learner. Be ready to step to that level and say, well, I want to learn more. Go out on your own and say, like, I want to learn tactics, look at different formations, look at different skills, look at different teams and how different styles of field hockey are played, either domestically or internationally, and try to formulate, what you want out of the team and the style that you like. But even more so than that, see if early on you can develop your own coaching philosophy. I mean, it'll develop as you go forward, but if you have a solid understanding of who you are as a person and what you personally can bring to a program that someone else can't, that's going to kind of help you ride out the tough times where maybe you feel a little bit lost, in terms of either sport knowledge or something else. If you're solid in who you are as a person and what you expect out of your coaching philosophy, what you expect out of the relationships with your athletes, that's going to help you kind of ride out the storm as you step to that level.
What advice would you give those assistant coaches looking to get started and even looking to become head coaches one day?
Yeah, so kind of the same. I mean, as a head coach, you have to be solid in what your game plan is. So making sure as an assistant coach, when you feel like, yep, I want to make that step, I want to be the boss, I want to be the one calling the shots, make sure that you're operating from a solid foundation of where you want to go and the direction that you want to go in. Because everything else can be adjusted. There's going to be things that pop up that you're not prepared for. So if you can come back to that coaching philosophy, if you can come back to who you are as a person and feel solid in that, you can kind of find your way through any storm as well. And then even beyond that, as an assistant coach, hopefully, working with programs, how important you are and how much your support matters to a head coach. So as you step to that next level and become a head coach yourself, just remember that you were once an assistant as well. Doesn't mean that you have to bend to everything your other coaching staff wants, but building that respect, building that trust, bringing in a coaching, a coach that you really trust and can work with, that's a paramount principle that you should be focusing on. So trust and trust is something that you can't buy. It's built over time. So I would say that as a head coach, that trust aspect is something that really matters when you get to this level.
What advice would you give those future head coaches that are looking to build their own program and build their own legacy?
Yeah, so I think it's awesome. Like I said, field hockey continues to grow in the United States. Love to see new programs coming up. I would say just get out there and recruit, and once again, keep an open mind. Don't think that I need only this particular athlete who can do this job and this and that and the other thing. When you're starting out, really try to create a space where you're like, I see some potential. Maybe it's not quite where we want it to be, but give them a shot. As you're building your program, you can start to filter it down and be a little bit more selective. But when you're starting a program, man, it's tough. And you just kind of have to keep an open mind and understand, like, it's going to take a minute for them to adjust. In some ways, it can be good because you get to build your team culture from the ground up instead of having to maybe change some things that were previously done if you step into a coaching role with a program that already exists. But in some ways that's a lot more work because it's just you, and you got to learn how to build that from the ground up. So keep an open mind, give some people a shot, keep working, and keep smiling along the way.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Limestone Field Hockey Program at?
Yeah, so Limestone Field Hockey is on Instagram, and we're also on TikTok. I'm not great at TikTok, but we have a couple of videos up there. The girls have been on me about letting them do some more TikTok videos, so I'm sure we'll have more content up there as well. And then I also have a personal Instagram as well. It's KT_Bulk. Limestone is Limestone_FH on TikTok and Instagram.
Thank you again, Coach Kathleen Bulk, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as the head coach for the field hockey program at Limestone University.
Thank you so much, Brandon. I appreciate the opportunity to be on.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Kathleen Bulk, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.